Oh. Hi. Hi. Oh, you caught me off guard. I didn't see you there. Whoa. Oh, always a warm welcome. Always a warm welcome. You guys are great. Wow. Wow. Cut it out. Cut it out. Don't make me come over there. Don't make me come over there. Don't make me come over there. All right. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the stream. I am your host, Jeroogalo, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Jeroogalo Story Mode. So yeah, thank you guys for coming. Hello, Kexus, I see you in the chat. Hello, welcome. So we're going to be having a special part 2 episode today. We're going to pick back up where we left off last time, which was a fantastic story about this post-apocalyptic world where we're in the 5th generation since a great cataclysm took over the world. The asteroid Hybo 341 broke up in the middle of the Valhallan belt and got irradiated and sent those chunks of asteroid to the Earth, which then killed 80% of the Earth's population and plunged us into darkness. The radiation from the Valhallan belt then caused genetic mutations in the people, which several generations later has finally manifested into superpowers. And so now, depending on how people, it's been recently discovered that depending on how people mate, which power people, which abilities the people had, depending on how they mix in reproduction, you can sometimes get a special power that comes out of it. So we call those powers Z powers based on our image here. So this little graphic explains how it works. A person with power X and a person with power Y get together. They can have a child with power X, Y, some fusion of X and Y, or both X and Y powers, or on occasion, rare occasion, the powers manifest into something completely different, maybe subtly related, but more than the sum of its parts, right? Into what we call a Z power. So these Z powers are now the source of the obtainable item that our different allegiances, our different factions in the world, right, are now trying to chase after these Z powers in order to maintain control and have the most power, right? So he who controls the Z powers controls the world, basically. That's the idea. Let me bring this down a tad. There we go. Okay, so yeah. So that's the state of affairs in the world. So how do we know all of this, right? There is a researcher who specializes in powered genetics, which is what we're calling it right now. The researcher is so the people that have these Z powers, really the general term is hybrids, which are people that are made up of parents with multiple powers. But what we're really talking about when we refer to hybrids are those that possess Z powers. And so the researcher who theorized that Z powers would come into existence was someone we're just for now calling the researcher. What exactly are people trying to do with Z powers? So there's some different schools of thought, right? Remember, we're in like a post-apocalyptic time. So they don't want to fight with the Z powers. They want to be able to fight with the Z powers. It's just like governments try to amass the most nuclear weapons or the biggest army or things like that, right? The one who has the power can dominate. So the people that are interested in building the biggest nation, the biggest country, have the most power. They want their factions to possess the Z power. Kind of like in Naruto, the tailed beasts, right? So kind of like that. So right, so the researcher theorized the rise of the Z powers, and he found the person that would have the Z power, and that was someone who is going to be called uh, the hybrid prime. So they just want to have them so they can threaten to use them. Uh, I mean, they may very well use them. It depends on how we write it, right? But yeah, they want to, yeah, nukes, mutually assured destruction. Although they don't really want mutually assured destruction, right? They want themselves assured destruction. So if they're in Canada, are they called Z powers? Yes. Anyone reading this from England or some other Commonwealth country, feel free to call them Z powers. I give my approval. So, yeah. So, yeah. So the researcher finds the hybrid prime, and he, for some reason, coercion? I don't think so. He decides to work with someone we're calling the Dominator. We need to give him perhaps a more solid name, but he's basically the current most powerful village leader in the world. But he has so he was already very powerful, but he becomes the most powerful because he makes a deal with the researcher in order to get access to the hybrid prime. And the hybrid prime's power is that he can enhance other people's abilities. So the Dominator is basically holding the hybrid prime hostage and sapping his energy, sapping his ability in order to keep himself the most powerful. And so, what sort of population scales are we dealing with? Uh, yeah, I don't know, right? So, 5 generations ago, 80% of the world's population was gone. So, what is that? 20% of 7 billion is 1.4 billion, right? Quick maths. Um, I hope that's right. Yeah, it's 1.4 billion. So, uh, there was 1.4 billion people left on Earth. So there's still a good amount of people, but they kind of all governments dissolved basically back then. So there's no like giant nations like the United States. Have I read Worm? I have not. There's no giant nations like the United States or anything like that. They're small, largely clan-based societies. So at the fall of everything, right? As soon as powers started or genetic mutations started manifesting, people either grouped based on families that were able to be maintained throughout the cataclysm and or based on genetic similarities that occurred. So all the people that manifested green hair or they were like 8 feet tall, whatever the changes were, people started grouping up based on those genetic differences, and they formed different clans. So later in the generations, we'll find out that those early genetic mutations would manifest into similar powers. So you're going to end up with villages that specialize in speed powers, specialize in gigantification powers, etc. Down the line. So right, that's how big are these villages? I would imagine most are no bigger than a few thousand people. So like small cities scattered throughout the world. Uh, yeah, that could be you feel like there's a story to be told about how all the governments collapsed at the beginning. Yeah, that could be a good prequel, right? I like a good. It's like the city of Ember when they told the city of Ember the people of Sparks, and then they went back to show how the world fell apart, how everything went bad at the beginning, right? So, by the way, I will be drinking my water out of this special glass. As you can see, it has Mewtwo etched into the glass. All right, thank you. My prized cup. So, yes. So that's the state of the world. Clan-based society. The Dominator has access to the Hybrid Prime. So who are our main characters, right? So 5th generation individuals. These guys are twins. So we're saying, uh, right. Let's go down here. Right. So Orion, Fields marries a woman named Kala, and they become Orion. Is this a sponsored stream? If any sponsors would like to sponsor this and future streams, feel free to contact me. Uh, so Orion, a man named Orion Fields, who has lightning abilities, very electrical in nature, right? He marries a woman named Kala, who has wind control abilities. They become Orion and Kala Fields, and they have a set of twins, or they have twins, right? And these two twins, Philip Fields and Archester Fields, they will become a pair which have creation and destruction abilities. So one can, create, generate, unify things, and then one can destroy, uh, break things apart, things like that. So, but what's the, these are very broken powers, right? So what's the catch? Because of the nature of their being twins, their powers are greatest in strength when they work together, when they're not only in close physical proximity, but when they're in sync mentally, psychically as well, right? So, but they have very different personalities, right? One of them, Philip Fields, he was more of a bookworm, and he kind of was very interested in powered genetics and following the studies of the researcher. So he's not after power and dominance in that sense. He's just very interested in the world, things like that. His brother, Archester has been watching the state of the world. He studied history from before, what they can gather from before the cataclysm and in the modern day, noticed how the power dynamics have changed, noticed how villages rose and fell, and he's noticed that the ones that survive throughout all time that we have in recorded history have been the strongest ones, the ones that have the biggest weapons, the ones that have the strongest people. So there must be something about strength that's good, inherently good for the village, good for a people. And we say that there was perhaps some event where a non-powered person was elected to be the leader of a village recently, and that village, which had survived all this time, was finally overrun and taken over by an outside force. So this just solidifies in Archester's mind that we should indeed have government by the strong. So he's more after the dominator. But what they don't realize is that the dominator and the researcher are connected through the hybrid prime. They both will have something to do with the hybrid prime. So we need to, follow this trail and see where it goes with the hybrid prime and how that's going to relate to them. So we have a villain name for Archester Fields, right? We call him a villain because we're, using black and white terms, but, in his mind, he's doing what's right. It's just how far does one go to do what they feel is right, right? What really is right in this case? How far do you take this power and strength thing before it becomes something not so good, right? So he's calling himself Hybo, which is named after the comet or the asteroid which gave everyone power. So that shows you his mental state as far as how he feels about himself, right? And it's also going to be an acronym that describes his powers and his types of destructive powers. So I said maybe it's for hyper evolved boy overpowered, something like that, but or hybrid evolved boy overpowered. Maybe that is what it'll stand for. I feel like that's not the best acronym, but I'm gonna put it anyway. Hybrid evolved boy overpowered. Right? He takes some creative license. What if the village was destroyed as the end result of a war that started over a rivalry between two powered people? So the other perspective on it is that leadership built on power is going to find excuses to use it. Oh, so we're saying the non-powered person was elected after. Oh, no, no, no. Okay, so say two powered people started a war a long time ago, and now this non-powered person was elected to run the village, and they end up losing the war. So Archester is focused on the non-powered person losing the war, but the other side of it is that powered people started that war, just fighting over how much power they have. Is that what you're saying? I like that. If that's the case. Um, yeah. So that's kind of where we left off. Uh, I think that's a pretty good basis for a genuinely good story here. So, right, here's a little map showing the connections we have so far. Yeah, and the non-powered guy wanted to dematerialize, but ended up just getting them all wiped out instead. Yeah, it's a very tragic. Let me write that. So, we're still in the conflict section. Okay. Oh, that's a good point, too. Me too. Let's make a history. So, there was a... Yo, Golden, welcome to the stream. I just did a recap of all the events that just happened. One 30-second summary. This is a post-apocalyptic world, and where people got superpowers from the events of that day. And now there's two brothers who are opposed to each other, but they need each other in order to, use their powers effectively. So, history. There was a war between two villages, and two villages led by powered individuals. Maybe let's make this a Gen 4 powered individuals to give some time. So, in this war between the two villages led by powered individuals, they've been at war ever since. Next generation chooses, next generation, one village chooses to elect a non-powered person to be the leader. But and he wanted, or she wanted to demilitarize, but sadly the village ended up wiped out. Now, why would you demilitarize in the middle of a war? Maybe they did negotiations to end the war, but there was betrayal, and it was, her naivete, maybe. Yeah, my sub goal bar isn't updating. I noticed that. Thank you. I will figure out what's going on with that. But thank you all for subscribing. I'm at 175 now. Thank you all for subbing. I appreciate that. Let's continue the subbing up to 200. That's our goal. Also, while I'm here, I finally did put the Discord link in the description. So everybody who's interested, please click to join that. So we can talk more about the story at different times. So, yeah. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe too, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you. Maybe it was at the peace talks that they got betrayed and attacked. Okay. So, peace talks. Oh, so they were having peace talks, And one of the village leaders said, uh, one of the village leaders said that as a gesture of goodwill, I will demilitarize my nation first in the hopes that you will join me. And they don't join, they just wipe them out. Right. The other guys saw a weak leader and they're like, maybe we don't need peace. Let's just... Yeah. So peace talks as gesture of goodwill. Agreed. One side agreed to demilitarize first, but the other side took advantage of that and wiped them out. So that's how that happened. And so what's the point of these details, right? It's so Archester sees this as proof that weakness only leads to destruction. But on the other hand, it was a war initiated by people fighting for power and dominance in the first place, right? So there's two sides to that coin. I like that. So that's where we're at now. So what I like about this, right, is we're doing a lot of world building. Like, we're really flushing out the universe in this story. We haven't really advanced the plot too much, though. We should probably do that. Like, what's the goal of the plot, right? We have a nice universe, nice world that's been built, but what is happening? Let's think. I need Jeopardy music. That's not Jeopardy music. So okay, let's make this real, right? If this was the real world, if this was really happening, right? Uh, I'm guessing Archester would be making secret trips to try and see. I don't think he would have access to see the Dominator, would he? Maybe he wants to take an internship. Do they have internships? Maybe he gets assigned to a mission, a spy mission. How old are they? They're somewhere between 15 and 20, right? Um but in this world, I imagine 15 is probably considered adulthood for a man, right? For a male, at least enough to work and things like that. Uh so he believes strength is important. So he's going to try to amass as much strength for himself because he wants to help his village. Because he doesn't consider himself he's not just a cackling villain, right? He wants to help his village be strong, be the best, gain strength. So he needs to gain strength himself. How does he do that? Well, you're going to want to seek out either the closest source of power or the strongest source of power. So we can either have some local strength teacher, right? He's going to try to find a master of some sort, or he can go to the Dominator. How does he get to the Dominator? I don't know. So let's put a little line here. Okay. Archester's path. How do you like Archester stylized? Should it be like that or should it be like that? I kind of like it like this, but We could do it like that. Archester's path. So, what are his goals? He wants to. What kind of technology level is the world at now? Not computers. The thing is, there are people with intelligence abilities. Oh, the apostrophe. I like that. There are people with intelligence abilities. So there may even be a clan of intelligent people that have a localized source of higher technology than everyone else. Will they export it? I don't know, because that's their source of strength, right? Their intelligence. So, ooh, that's a nice bit of world building. Intelligence village where their source of this is kind of like what was that book series where they had Insurgent and all of this, right? They had Erudite and all these different villages that had different skill sets, right? Where their source of strength is their minds, right? Unlikely to export much technology unless they get something in return that their smarts can't provide. Yeah, it's like, okay, so the world in general, it's been what, 5 generations? So about 100 years. We're about 100 years post cataclysm. Not all the world's technology would have been gone before heavy grouping of people with intelligence abilities probably did help to restore the world somewhat. So I would say there's like horse-drawn wagons and chariots and all of that, swords, maybe the beginning of guns. Uh, Not computers, definitely, for most people. Maybe steampunk will be in like the intelligence people, so they're in like the industrial revolution. I'm thinking most people are like pre-industrial revolution, but the if there's any villages with higher intelligence than normal, they're more industrial revolution era. But we can play with it. So steampunk and things like that. So Archester, who wants to protect and advance his village standing in the world in order to. Was most of the scientific knowledge lost? Well, either the knowledge itself was lost or the people that would know how to use that knowledge uh, would be lost, right? Because 80% of the population was gone. So the 20% who have the knowledge, are they going to, is their main focus going to be preserving scientific advancements? But yes, that's true. You still have 20%. So assuming an even distribution of destruction, you have 20% of the world's scientists, 20% of the world's engineers, 20% of the world's doctors. So yeah, maybe it's not fair to say they're uh, that far back. But also remember, you can have the intelligence for things, but you also need resources to do them. There's no more like most of the world's factories and machineries were destroyed too. Shouldn't it be like a bell curve? Uh, well, no, I'm assuming there's an even distribution of asteroids destroying everything and an even distribution of intelligence or different skill sets throughout everywhere. So you should have an even distribution of the remaining people, right? That's my thinking. But if I'm wrong, that's please let me know. Uh, so Yeah, if anyone has any suggestions based on the things I've said, what exactly the state of technology should be, I guess we could do like steampunk for most people, and then like 20s, 1920s for higher intelligent people. Yeah, there'd need to be a lot of maybe is there a way to justify most of the factories and buildings being destroyed? Actually, have you ever watched that show that's like Life After Humans? And it shows if what if one day all humans just immediately disappeared? How long would everything last? And it's always like 1 year after humans, all the automated factories shut down and plants start overgrowing everything, right? So if if humanity was suddenly wiped out that much, then the factories would probably be destroyed, right? No one's watching the nuclear facilities; they blow up. Oil fields, all these things. Just yeah, maybe there were solar flares or something else that would cause EMPs that totally wiped out all the electronics. Maybe the satellites. Maybe satellites were knocked out as the asteroids flew by. Uh, yeah, I like the solar flare, but that's kind of a heavy coincidence, right? Like these people can't catch a break, or maybe it was initiated, right? Maybe in some sequel we find out an alien species actually instigated the cataclysm. But well, okay, what if the Valhallan radiation is suppressing uh radio communication or something? Or maybe how does an EMP work, right? Can radiation have the same effect as an EMP? I don't think so, right? Because it's not an electromagnetic pulse. Like if this happened far enough in the future that we stop bothering with paper books, then losing all our computers means losing all our knowledge. Well, we have it currently set at 2036. So, do we think in 16 years from now, we can change the setting, but that's where I had it. Uh, I'm trying to think like if this was real life, right? If like tomorrow, it's not going to happen, but like if tomorrow uh this event happened, well, everyone's first focus would be on surviving, saving themselves. There'd be rioting and looting, destruction. Factories and buildings would be destroyed from either lack of care or from the direct attack itself. Uh, like say CERN, right? What would place? I mean, CERN's underground largely, but okay. Say there's big facilities like that, right? Do you think people are going to? I guess some people would like rush to download or save all knowledge material and lock it away. Maybe someone did, right? Maybe that's like an item to be secured. Maybe someone left a key to a vault, which the only person who had the bright idea to preserve human knowledge from the past uh, preserved it, and there's a digital key or some sort of key, and that'll be a plot device of a MacGuffin we need to get to do something, right? That could be it. I intended for there to be scattering of knowledge remaining, right? So also this would be like there'd be a mix of technology. It's not like we started from zero and worked our way back up. Like we may have pencils, but like no paper. I mean that's a dumb example, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, right? There's like a patchwork of society left, but it's also can be reused material, right? So they may have like just items left over from pre-cataclysm that they're introducing, reusing into society. Swords and things, right? They're metal. Swords, if someone's village happened to be near different armories, they would have quickly been able to arm themselves as opposed to other groups who weren't near those things. So that's true. This definitely needs more thought. I would say the base technology level that everyone has is either at they're like at the edge of industrial era. I would say that. They have hydroelectric power through, like, if they're near a river, they can generate electricity and have basic light bulbs, but that's it. Um they have horse-drawn wagons. If they're in a village that has oil, maybe they've refined it into gasoline. But that's another thing too, though, right? There's no trade, right? All trade would have stopped 100 years ago because all nations were destroyed at the same time, essentially. So your abilities as a village are closely tied to what you have in your village. It's like playing a game of Civ, right? So, uh, yeah, I kind of want to draw a map. What I would love, and maybe this is something we can work on in the Discord. What I would love is a big world map that shows the world. Uh, wouldn't even small villages still trade with each other? I mean, yeah, I'm sure trade would have picked back up, but what I'm referring to is there's no like large scale trade to where any country can have any resource at any one time. Horsepower generator generates electricity as long as you throw a horse in every day or two. Well, I don't think that would be the plan because horses are probably more valuable as a vehicle or even meat. Yeah, no global trade. Exactly. So yeah, if you're next to a village that has a river but you don't have a river, you can, work together to get you give me water, we give you cotton or whatever, right? So textiles for water or fish or whatever. That sort of trade still happens, as long as they're not at war with each other. Um. So yeah, but yeah, I would like a big world map, and we can kind of draw the different regions and kind of theorize what each region would specialize in. We also need to pick a location for this story. Are they in England? Are they in Russia? Are they in Nigeria? Are they in Brazil? Are they in California? You know, uh, not that these nations exist anymore, but nations formerly known as those nations. Um, yeah. So anyway, that world building is very interesting, and we will get back to it. For now, let's try to advance the plot a little bit. So, right, Archester. He wants to protect and advance his village's standing in the world. In order to do so, he is convinced that the primary objective ought to be getting stronger. That also leads to the logical conclusion that he himself should become village leader. So, how to get that strength, right? So, how does he get this strength? Needs a master to train him. he can either find a local master, so martial arts, weapons, things like that, or find a path to the dominator, right? Those are his two options. I would say maybe he has another option, like store up a weapons cache or something. But I don't think he would do that path because he needs to feel he himself is strong, right? So mentally he needs to gain strength. Uh, he needs to have good hand-to-hand combat and also weapons, yes. So he needs is there like a Mr. Miyagi but violent edition? Does he enroll in Cobra Kai? Is that where he's going to go? I kind of like the local master thing before he. Yeah, it could be both, right? He finds a local master and then goes to meet the Dominator. We might need a part 3 for this story. Um, so finds a local master. Then, okay. So, both. Okay, so that's that. Um, so his path will just follow his story as he goes to try and find. Maybe he's walking along one day to the town market, and he sees a flyer. Uh, and the flyer says karate lessons, call 555. You know, so he's got to start with a local master and then surpass and defeat the master and then go looking for a stronger master. Yeah, I like that. That's a nice trajectory. So he gets his black belt. It's a second degree, third degree black belt, right? Defeats the local master. Then goes off seeking further power. Um, I like that. Okay. So that's Archester's path. What about Philip's path? Philip's path. So I said before he's more bookish, right? Ooh, this is a good spot. We can use what we talked about before about the hidden cache of knowledge. Bookish. Enjoys studying, especially powered genetics. Especially powered genetics. And he is going to so what if we theorized that there was a secret cache of knowledge? He could be self-taught from pre-apocalypse books that he's collected. Yes, perfect. So he enjoys studying, especially powered genetics. Has gathered lots of books that he's been able to acquire from cataclysm. Etc. And self-taught, because there's no like major universities, right? He will have gone through the normal school system the village has, maybe some advanced schooling, whatever they're able to do, and from there he's just teaching himself. So went through the school that was available in the village and now teaches himself. That's kind of like what old school thinking people did, right? They had just a tutor to pass the knowledge on to them. So yeah, he takes books and things. Somewhere along the line, somewhere along the line, he gets wind that there is a secret cache of knowledge preserved during the cataclysm that would be a great advancement for humanity and the village. So his view is that the best way to help the village is to increase our knowledge, our technological ability, things like that. He feels the best way to advance the village is through knowledge and technological advancement, not brute strength. This is kind of like Dr. Stone in a way, right? Smart brains versus brawn in a post-apocalyptic world. Little bit of themes from that. So not brute strength. So, all right, there's that. So why are they at odds? Right. So they need each other for their powers to work the best. So what's the issue? They need each other to be together and on the same page in order to maximize their abilities. But with such differing opinions on the path forward, they are mentally at odds, and also not really being near each other as often as they go their own ways, right? So one is always at the library and the other one's at the dojo. So I mean, how close do they have to be, right? They don't have to literally be joined at the hip, but maybe they have to be within a mile of each other or within eyesight. Maybe same town. How about this? How close do they have to be? Maybe it's directly related, like the closer they get together, the closer to 100% it becomes. I don't know. So there's that. So right, but that's a problem. So they're not on the same page. Why does Philip want to use his powers? I mean, if you have creation powers, actually, that talk about helping the village. If you have creation powers, you can just manifest things the village needs. Oh, we need to make some limitations for that, actually. There has to be rules, because how are they aware of how their powers interact, or is it something they figure out during the story? They probably figured it out pretty quick, because if they tried to, maybe they don't know the full way of it, but I'm imagining if you grow up with these powers, you notice you're stronger when you're near each other. But what they don't, we forgot to mention this in the recap earlier. What we forget, what they don't realize is that they really both have the exact same power. It's creation or destruction. It's change, right? And it just is manifesting differently in them because of their outlooks on the world. But we need some more limits on this power, yeah, because why can't he just build, why can't he find a book on nuclear power and make a whole power plant using his creation powers, right? Or why can't Archester make his brother make them guns, and cars and tanks, right? Uh, yeah, some sort of negative side effect. So let's look at other sources. In My Hero Academia, there's a girl with creation powers, but her abilities are limited by she has to have intimate knowledge and understanding of what she's making, and it's also limited. So she's not creating them out of thin air, she's converting the lipids in her body into the items. So it's limited to how much something she possesses on her body in order to do it. So that could be it. He has some physical limitations. He literally can't make just a million guns for everybody. He can only make five of something at one time. Maybe as he gets stronger, he pushes that limit. Um, Maybe every time he uses the power, uh, okay, maybe he the more he makes things, the weaker they are. So like he could build a bridge. He could manifest one bridge perfectly. But the second time he tries to make a bridge, that bridge has like a quarter or only three quarters of the integrity, and then half the integrity, and then by that point, who wants to be on that bridge, right? Um, and plus, so I think he has to know intimately what he's making, which is why he studies so much, right? But two, let's say food. Food is a good one. He somehow converts what he eats into the things he's creating. So if he's starving, his powers will be weaker. So I'm imagining if he has like a super suit or something, he has a little snack trough up his sleeve that he just drops some high calorie nuts out of, right? He has a little cashew trough. Uh, or he carries these little high calorie field rations or something. Uh, maybe every, maybe he can make 1 pound. Maybe he can, for every calorie he intakes, he can make an item of 1 pound in weight, something like that. Um, so this is more detail. One nation powers limited by his knowledge of what he creates and needs to eat in order to provide physical matter to convert into the objects. Okay. Like more destruction used makes it weaker, but creation stronger. Ooh. What if using one of the brother's powers make the other stronger? Using what if using one of the brother's powers makes the other one stronger when they're near? Like more destruction used makes it weaker, but makes create. Ooh, that's kind of like the blue lanterns. When the blue lanterns are kind of weak on their own, but when they're near a green lantern, the green lantern becomes like 10 times stronger, and that's why they got to work together and stuff. Yeah, no, I like that. So the only way to balance their power level is to the only way to balance their power level is to work together. because if so, what happens when they're on their own is their powers get progressively weaker, and but the other person charges them when they're nearby. So if he is creating by himself, he'll eventually not be able to do it anymore, no matter how much he's eating. Uh, but when they're together, he could just continually work, and vice versa. When they're away, their power drains to nothing, but when together, they drain to each other. Yeah, no, I like that. Um, twin power, right? Twin effect. So when together, all right, so naturally their abilities fade with use. Uh, naturally their abilities fade with use. Example, Philip needs to eat to be full strength, but if his brother isn't nearby or mentally on the same page, eventually, no matter how much he eats, he will eventually have his power drop to 0 or some low level. Maybe not 0. Maybe they drop down to like 10% without each other. So, but together they charge each other. So as one creates, creation drains, but destruction grows, and vice versa. But that would mean okay. That would mean you need to actually use the other power in order to charge the other one up. Or is it just purely based on location? Purely based on location or just proximity? So basically, I want to go create stuff, but I need to be able to do it for like 6 hours straight. So I need my brother there with me. Does he have to be destroying stuff at the same time I'm creating stuff in order to keep me charged? Or is him just being there enough to keep me charged? And vice versa. I think it should be proximity. Unless they just like, he just like keeps little items on him to destroy, but he can't create in order to make like a little perpetual motion machine, right? So I think we'll leave it at proximity. So right, that's good. How close do they have to be? They need to be together and on the same page. So was this where we were? Um yeah. Um okay. So we have the paths being written here, right? So thinking about writing this as a story, right? Because that's the ultimate goal. Take these notes and make a story out of it. We're going to have the story of the great cataclysm and then two boys, yada yada yada. I'm assuming if we do like a chapter thing like this, right, we would swap back and forth from their perspectives. So Philip's perspective, Archester's perspective, follow what Archester's doing, and see how he goes down the path of gaining power. Then follow Philip's perspective and how he's trying to study past relics and history and gain knowledge. And with knowledge, he's able to create more things and things like that. And then we see the other one in each other's chapters in order, and bounce back and forth in that perspective. And then some chapters would be like prequel and things like that. So okay, but if they both have to use their powers when they're separated, they both drain and can't charge the other. Yeah. Uh Axel, right. So that's why I'm kind of thinking maybe it doesn't go to zero. It just goes to like 10%. Or maybe it's like maybe um it's not like if they're not within a mile of each other, the charging effects drops to zero. Maybe it's not like that, right? Maybe they can always feel each other's presence in that way, but at a certain distance, it just becomes negligible, right? Like it's not useful. It charges like your charger's broken, right? You get like 1% charge every hour, as opposed to a fast charger, right? Where you should be charged up fully in like 20 minutes, right? So maybe it's kind of like that. The farther away they get, the slower the charge. So they need to be together in order to quickly charge each other. So they're never going to really drain to 0% either. They'll always have at least 10% of their max potential power. So I'm going to say they gain strength, or the charging, oh, this should be in twin effect. So twin effect, right? The charging always technically occurs, but it is exponentially affected by proximity. So to charge each other at the fastest rate, they need to stand in the same spot. Example, if they're in the same room as each other, the charging is seamless, 1-to-1. So they never lose any charge. Never lose any charge. If they're, half a mile from each other, the charge is, 50% rate. So you're just slowing the rate of drainage, etc. And just like that. So if you're a million miles away, you might get 1% charge every 50 years, right? Something like that. So that is their twin effect 1. Could it be like only so much matter can be created or destroyed in an area? I mean, we could do it like this. I think it would tie our hands a bit much creatively, but you could have their powers are so linked to where like the universe itself will not allow the creation of matter unless an equal amount of matter is destroyed. So, but they would literally be bound together as power users. That's not really what you're asking, though. Could it be like only so much matter can be created or destroyed in an area? So, like me sitting in a room, I can only create 5 pounds worth of matter or destroy 5 pounds worth of matter. Maybe. I don't know what the you know reasonings for that would be. Like, why is that the case? What defines the differences? Is it just like room size? If you're outside, is that still in effect? I don't know. So, but I think this is good. Advancing the plot. Can we advance the plot? Okay, so I think that's just where we would go, right? We would just follow the two along as one seeks power, fights, trains, gets stronger. The other one studies, learns to create more things, things like that. Maybe I. Ooh, now this is cool. Powered martial arts. What is martial arts now? Like, right? Is there like uh, quirk based kung fu? Right? So, because if people have all these different powers, right, that's really going to affect. Like maybe the core martial arts are the same, but like say if you can generate fire, right, the types of martial arts moves you can do with fire are going to be very different. So maybe the martial arts knowledge that remained rap rapidly evolved in post post cat. Yeah, how do you even fight someone with, right? So if someone's got super strength, how do you even fight them? You've got yeah, you've got to be able to make hybrid. Welcome. Uh, we're discussing. We mostly just been doing some world building. So to find the main motivations. So the Hybo, his name is Archester Fields. Uh, his uh, his main motivation is that people need to become strong in order to protect the village, in order to be the best. So he's going to be seeking power. He's going to find some master in the village to teach him and train under, and then he's going to try to go to the world's strongest person in order to learn from him. After that, his brother Philip Fields, he's more about knowledge and gaining power that way, which is just through learning and understanding. And we've refined some of the uh, way their powers work, being twins, and also just what are some limits on their creation and destruction abilities. So right now we're theorizing what superpowered martial arts would look like. So post cataclysm. Uh, so how would you fight someone with super strength? You've got to be able to avoid their strength somehow. You could do grappling, throws, things like that. Um, my old rule is when someone's too strong to defeat in a fight, you have to contain them. So if you have like some sort of restrictor ability, but this would all be the goal of whoever develops the new martial arts now, right? So each school would develop different skill sets. So there'll be a there'll be a elemental kung fu, perhaps a a a telepathic taekwondo, things like that. Doesn't have to just be like that. But in fact, each school would, cause like kung fu, right? They have a bunch of different branches for types of kung fu. It would kind of be like that. So people whose quirks deal with strength, they're going to learn different patterns, different kata. that deal with strength. People who have elemental abilities are going to learn, water kata, fire kata. So, oh, so I'm going to make up a name. Taedon martial arts. Right? So what is Taedon? Taedon was developed in the aftermath of the world's destruction. Right? What about gun kata? Yeah, I mean, probably. Was developed in the aftermath of the world's destruction in order to accommodate martial arts with powers, right? So they have element based kata. That's just this one. So elemental based kata. It also has mental techniques for people that have mental abilities. So you could even have mind kata as well. So kind of like a genjutsu type thing. Self-defense. How to fight an opponent with a power not good for you, right? So, example, super strength. That's pretty much universally bad for people. You have flight kata for people who can fly. Techniques for people who don't need to breathe. Breathless techniques. So, the thing is, how do you advance in Taedon, right? Taedon users. So, what is a black belt in Taedon, right? Well, if you don't have a mental ability, you're not going to need to master the mind kata because you can't, right? You can't do the mind kata. Maybe there's special techniques you have to learn from all of these to compensate. So you learn how to protect yourself from mind kata users, or you learn how to handle a flying opponent. Right, you gotta beat up people with different powers, right? Actually, that's simple, right? So you have to be able, before you can call yourself a master of Taedon, you have to more different powers you can beat the higher your rank, right? So you have to be able to defeat someone from every school, right? Okay. So advance through Taedon. Oh, okay. So you pick a school. Okay, I see. Okay. Advance through Taedon. How to advance. So you pick a school or a class or whatever of Taedon, and you have to advance within your own class and use the knowledge you gain in your own class and defeat someone of a different class. So you go Taedon studies 1 through 5, you do a testing by defeating someone from the flight school. And then you do Taedon's lessons 6 through 10, and then you do a testing, defeat someone from the mental school. You do 11 through 15, defeat someone from the strength school, etc. like that. And then your final testing is defeat someone back to back from each school. And then you are a master of Tadon. And ready and considered qualified to pass on the knowledge to other people. Okay, so you pick a school of Tadon teachings. Hang on. Okay. Sorry. Advance through your own school. Example, ranks 1 through 5. Have testings against an instructor from another school to beat them in order to go up a belt. So just to go from, say, white, yellow, green, blue, right? To go from white belt to yellow belt, you just need to get through the first few lessons of your own school. Then to go from yellow to, say, orange, you have to defeat someone from another school. Then to go from orange to green, you have to do lessons 5 through 10. Then from green to blue, you have to do 11 through 12 and fight someone from another school. Things like that. Against an instructor from another school, beat them to go up a belt. So either repeat this process each belt or have different school tests every other belt. So no. Pain. Fine. This isn't where this bullet should go, but I have to put it here. It's being very mean to me. Okay. Anyway, to become a master of Tadon and be qualified to pass on the knowledge, you must have a final test where you defeat an instructor from each school back to back. So like Pokemon League, you have your Elite Four of different types, and then you have to fight the champion, which is the master of the dojo at the end. And then the master of the dojo. So once you can defeat him, then it doesn't necessarily mean you're like stronger than the master of the dojo, but he will fight you to a degree that is worthy of you winning. And maybe our secondary protagonist here, maybe he'll be so good that the master won't even be holding back and he defeats him anyway. But in general, he's going to fight you to the degree worthy of you becoming considered a master. So once you do that, you're a master of Tadon. Okay. Yay, we just invented super powered martial arts. I wonder how many schools there are though. Is elementals should all be one school. And you just ignore the kata you don't need, right? So if you're a water user, you use the water kata. If you're a fire user, you use the fire kata. If you're a wind user, use wind. If you're electricity, use electricity. Earth, use earth, right? Mind kata sound very interesting. Self-defense, I guess, isn't really a school. The school equivalent of that would probably be like a strength school. So super strength fighting. Right. So that's going to be a big challenge, right, for people, you know, but that's part of it. People who can fly, their only power is they can fly. What do they do? And then there has to be maybe one for special techniques. So, say your ability doesn't fall into any of these categories necessarily, you can have a special techniques course, which is just someone who is a master of Tay Dawn works with you one on one. Because what is creation and destruction? How does that fit in this, right? So, someone who is a master of Tay Dawn, uh, who will teach the special techniques path, uh, they will. Okay, yeah. So I'll put that. Special techniques path, right? So, those guys, they might be able to like make black holes or something that doesn't really fit into any of the normal schools. So, special techniques classes have an instructor who is a master of Taidon who has taught for at least 10 years. Uh, Someone who's been a master for at least 10 years, right? Okay. So, special techniques school. Oh, instruction overseen by a Taidon master who has been a master at least 10 years. So, and the reason we say that is so that he or she has the genuine expertise and judgment to know the spirit of Taidon and to train the person in using their special, their specific powers in a Taidon way, right? In a way for which there's no specific kata. You'll need to be able to, the master will need to be able to create kata for them. Or take the elements from the kata that would make sense. Maybe there's general kata, right? Maybe you take the general kata and apply them. Oh, for the non-powered. Not for non-powered and basis for special techniques. Okay. So, if you don't have any powers, you may still want to learn Taidon, right? I don't know how you're going to beat powered people with no powers, but maybe they're graded on a curve. I don't know. They might have to use weapons, actually. Non-powered people typically compensate by taking weapons courses as well. General path includes weapons kata. So Paul said gun kata earlier, right? So that's that. So yeah. Instruction overseen by a Taidon master who's been master at least 10 years. Teaches the general kata, but also teaches the student how to integrate their specific powers into those kata and make them specific for them, almost making a secondary set of kata. So they know the general movements for as if they were a non-powered person, but now they know how to, use their powers in tandem with that. So they basically learn double the kata of everyone else. Uh, and basically from there, advancement is the same. So the instructor will determine when they've passed each sub step, uh, follows same advancement path as others from there. So they'll make sub advancements, and then they'll fight people from other schools to gain new belts, and eventually they become a Taidon master there. So our main character, I'll say Archester. Archester will go to study Taidon, and he'll have to take the special techniques course because he's a general. Uh, he's in general studies. It might be a source of frustration for him that he can never be as powerful as he should be in class because his brother isn't interested in fighting as well, right? So he could have always been 10 times stronger, than he is. So, um, Archester. Archester is Hybo, by the way. Archester will study Adon in his village, is upset with his brother. Not outright, but it's there underneath. Underneath for not also being interested in studying Taedon, because that means he has to go to lessons alone, which means his power levels drain and he can never show his full potential in sparring, etc. So what's more frustrating to someone trying to gain power than to be limited by someone else? Like your power being directly limited because of someone else, right? Someone trying to gain power than their power being limited by someone else who you consider is going down a pointless path, right? So that's that. And similarly, should Philip be studying under someone too? I know we said self-taught, but what is he just gonna pick up a book a day, right? Like today we're going to study biological physics, right? And he's just studying that on his own. And then next day, today we're gonna study quantum mechanics, right? He found all these books just laying around. Maybe that's the case. Yeah, so he reads all day because he's a nerd. Yeah, I'm just thinking story wise, uh, how to write that to be interesting. I guess we can just have like his study sessions and him. So if he's reading a book on how engines work, right? We could do a scene where he's actually trying to create an engine, but he can't get it completed because his brother's not there. Things like that. So he's studying. So that could be the path, right? He's trying to advance society in his own way, and he's studying these things and trying to create them. Sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it doesn't, because you know the brother thing. So Philip is studying various textbooks and things, learning about things he can create to help the village, as well as pure science. Sometimes he goes to create things, but can't do it completely without running down his charge. And since his brother is likely not there, he won't be able to complete it. Right. Which is his source of frustration. All right, so we're building contention between these two, right? There are two brothers that literally need each other, but they're on opposite paths, but they can't even fully do what they want to do on those opposite paths because they're bound together. So they're going to need to deal with this at some point, right? They're going to need to either, fight it out, or one will have to reconcile and join the other. So that's pretty good. So I think that's kind of what our little chapter. So we have some chapters on world building. We can drop in world building bits as we go along. I'm tempted very much so to establish the setting at the beginning, opening scene, because I'm going to make this into a video, right? So, I mean, to be honest, this is enough material. You could probably make a pretty nice novel out of this, or a manga or something. But yeah. For now, a short story to be turned into an audio drama. So I kind of want to show the setting, flush out the world at the beginning, tell the audience where we are, what's happening, who the people are, and then you could do a lot of world building through Philip learning about history. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So, maybe I save some drops and then drop them through the textbooks. And more books have been written since the Cataclysm, right? He's not only studying, right? Philip not only studying PC, like pre-Cataclysm texts. Also, why are pre and post the same thing? Okay, I'll call this before Cataclysm, BC. That's funny. That's a pun, right? And then post Cataclysm texts also. So books that have been written in the last 100 years. Books he's been able to acquire written in the last 100 years. Not necessarily all physical textbooks or anything, right? It could be scrolls, could be just spoken knowledge that's been told to him. Ante and post. Yeah, so AC and PC, right? So so he needs to know what was the world like before, what has the world been like since, find a way to reconcile those things. So wants to know what the world was like before, what the world is like now, reconcile those things, and then find a way to push the world forward even beyond what it was at before. Right. So that's that. So, right. So we can do world building through these historical drops of, that was actually why I mentioned he's learning modern things. So world building through these historical drops of 2036, dawn of time to 2036 and 2036 to 2021XX, right? Which is 2130s. Right. That's our current setting, is the 2130s estimated. So, yeah, I think we have a nice little path. We could call this, we don't have an ending yet. What's kind of, so the trajectory of the story is going, we kind of have, we have the paths, right? We have who these guys are, how their paths diverge, the trajectory they go along towards meeting their goals, but then they have to come back together again and then take us to the end of the story, right? And I think those things, I think that is going to come through the hybrid prime, because that's the common denominator of all of this. Archester is going to get to the, better not decide an ending. Maybe not an ending, but maybe just how to wrap up this story, right? I think Archester is going to meet the hybrid prime through meeting the Dominator, and Philip is going to follow the trail left by the researcher, assuming he's not alive. Just see what get. Writing by the seat of my pants. I'm perfectly fine with that technique. It's perfectly legitimate. Right. So, and Philip is going to follow the trails of the researcher, assuming the researcher's not still alive, and meet the hybrid prime. So, because they need to know what they are too, right? And Philip is also going to be researching powered genetics and Z power hybridization, right? So that's going to lead him to the hybrid prime. So both paths will lead our MCs to the hybrid prime. What will happen when they find him? How will seeing the truth of the researcher's corruption and the Dominator's true source of power shake their beliefs and ideals on how to go forward? Will this lead to reconciliation? Will it change their mindsets enough to realize their own truth, that their power is in fact one and the same? Maybe that would be for book 2, right? Maybe we don't even realize that they actually have the same power until the second book. If this was like a trilogy, that's what I would do probably. Right. Yeah, like the good old days. Just see what feels right. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think we kind of have a trajectory. So the ending isn't perfect. Like, I haven't nailed the hammer in what's going to happen at the very last second. But we kind of see where this path is naturally taking us, I think, because there has to be some sort of something has to happen with this because neither of them are happy with the state of the world or their powers. And something has to force them to come together. And I think it will be the mystery of the hybrid prime. So, what will happen when we get there? Uh, yeah, and I think once they find the hybrid prime, Philip's definitely going to want to expose this or at least free the hybrid prime. I think Archester will too, because he'll feel betrayed that the Dominator, who he'd been studying under, was actually um, fraudulent in his power source. But the hybrid prime himself is not powerful. He's just a source of power. So who truly has the power? Uh, the Dominator has power, but that power does not come from himself or his own abilities. So is it truly the strong winning? Right. Archester finds out that the Dominator is powerful, but because of the hybrid prime, who himself doesn't have power but can only give power. So who truly is the powerful one? Dominator has power, but that power doesn't come, at least not purely, from within himself. And then someone can point out, and then the Dominator would probably say, well, does your power truly come from within yourself? Because you gain power because of your brother also, right? So his philosophy, all right, but the power doesn't come. So does the strong just truly rule? His philosophy is questioned. Dominator could come back at him, pointing out that his power is partially flowing from his brother as well, in some way. Philip is shaken by the researcher's corruption, but is that enough, right? So say your role model you find out sucks. Is that going to shake your worldview on? Well, yes, because he's saying, he basically was like, knowledge is power, but that source of knowledge was being just as corrupt as others have been. And if we gain this knowledge but exhibit the same behaviors as all other corrupt people, then we're really not more advanced at all, right? You have technological advancements, but what if you just use that technology, right? You have technological advancements, but who's to say that technology isn't used for corrupt purposes as well? So would he really be advancing society, Or would he just be creating more tools for the corrupt to use to damage society? Right? So they both have their worldviews shaken, and maybe they just decide to break away from both and come up with their own philosophy together. Or, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And maybe I will leave that open. And when it comes time to really sit down and write the story, I just do what feels right at the moment. So, break off and go their own way. Double down. We shall see. So, okay. Yeah, because Archester could be like, you know what? That was him, not me. This one case doesn't affect what all of history has done. He was weak. I'm the strong one. So I'm actually stronger than you, really, because you were only that strong because you had the hybrid prime, which means I'm truly the master of society now. I'm taking over as the strongest in the village, and I'm going to make things the way I want them to be. And then now they have to have a big final battle, because we wanted him to be a villain, right? So maybe uh Archester says that Dominator is not worthy to be called the strongest. The philosophy is not wrong. He simply cheated. And now he, Archester, no, Hybo, is the true strongest in the world and deserving of the mantle of Dominator. Okay. So Philip says, I know how you feel. I'm confused too, but this is not the way. They argue because they have always and continue to see things differently. Philip always telling him that's not telling him that his way is the wrong way, although they both did that to each other, right? Then we have a big final battle, and maybe the final battle will result in them realizing they share the same power. So Philip ends up destroying something and Archester ends up creating something, and then they go on their way. You know, that revelation. Because imagine what they can do, right? If they can both create and destroy, they can work together. They can both create and fuel each other perpetually. Then you could just rebuild all society. There probably still will have to be some limitation. Creation involves eating, so they'll need to constantly eat. Or maybe one destroys bad things while the other creates the good things, right? One to work together to advance society. I don't know. I'm not saying this has to be I'm just letting my brain project while I'm here. But I'm thinking this is kind of the path it's heading down, because this has to come to a head, right? There's too much strife and contention between the two. So, yeah, the Dominator would have to be defeated. Maybe he'll be a pre-boss. Uh, you know, Philip will cut off his access to the Hybrid Prime because he freed him, right? Philip managed to free the Hybrid Prime, which removes the Dominator's access to him. Archester defeats him in combat. Okay. Prior to final battle. So the final battle will be between Philip and Archester. Although, you know, so it's going to be a battle of brains versus brawn, right? Final, because Philip is not a trained martial artist, but he knows how to make weapons, and since they're near each other, there's no real limit to their powers at this point. Brains versus brawn. Philip, not a trained martial artist, but he has studied many things and can create tools which would help him in battle. Archester obviously has mastered Tay Dawn and is arguably one of the strongest in the world. Okay, he believes he is the strongest, but you know, that's the outline for the battle. Philip works out at the library. Exactly. My biggest muscle is my brain. Ha 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 ha. Well, I haven't been doing voices for these guys. Philip. I'm Philip. You can't do this, Archester. This isn't the way. What do you know about the way? All our lives, you've told me, Philip, that this wasn't the way. But what do you know? What could you possibly tell me of the way? I have studied the way societies have fought and battled and grew and fell throughout all time, while you studied your books on math and science, which, to your credit, is useful. But it's not going to get us there. Those things may make society more comfortable, but it won't keep them. What's the point of comfortable societies if your societies fall in battle? If warriors come and take over your village and destroy it, leaving it to ashes. The number of people I've seen on my journeys to power who have been abandoned, the wandering nomads of Opan, who walk all day and night without a village, refugees from the great destruction. What do I have to do to show you that the only way to prevent that from happening to our village too is to make sure that it can never happen by making us the strongest there is? It doesn't have to be that way. There's more than one way to be strong, Archester. We can build technology, like in the old days. I read the history. At some point, militaries just stopped fighting each other. There used to be world wars where the entire planet would just have wars across everyone. But the wars stopped because they had technology that would ensure that if everybody had them, no one could ever use them without it being the end of all things. So technology was the key to keeping peace. Now, I'm not saying weapons have to be that technology, but think of the advancements. There was air conditioning and refrigerators, which could keep food cold and prevent spoiling. Think about that. Communications equipment. Even for your military techniques, communication equipment would be useful, right? You could talk to people from villages across the planet instantaneously through these things called cell phones. There's just, you miss so much in life by only focusing on who can kill each other the best. What's the point of living in the world if you can't enjoy life? Just take time to breathe and enjoy life. We have to have a life to enjoy, Philip, and that's what you never understood. But I think this is a lesson that I can't teach you with words anymore. We've had words long enough. It's time we end this once and for all. You want to fight me, Archester? If that's what I have to do. Because you may not be a warrior, but I can tell you're the only one that stands in my way. So be it. I'll fight the way I know how. With my brain! Sorry to break the tension. Anyway, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So, we're coming up on 2 hours here. I think we did pretty good. I think we fleshed out the world pretty good. I think we have a very nice story here. It might take me a little longer to write this one because it's very, like, to be honest, this could become a very drawn out and long story if I wanted it to. But I'm going to try to keep it, concise enough for a YouTube video. Maybe I could do a series of YouTube videos, like episodes and chapters, right? So, yeah, anyway, I'm going to cut it off here. I think we did pretty good, guys. So, yeah, let's pencil this story in as tentatively done. If you want more, let me know. Comment down below. Join the Discord and talk to me. We can keep it going there, or we can do a third episode of this story. But, yeah, I think we're done here, guys. Yeah, clap it up. Yeah. We did it! Another one under our belt, guys. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm happy too. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeroogalo. This has been another episode of Jeroogalo Story Mode. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, please, even though it's a live stream. Share my channel and this stream with your friends. Share my other videos with your friends, please. Yeah, let's get even more people, because the audience is helping with this, right? So the more people we have in, the more ideas we can get, the more we can flesh out stories like this. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for coming in to be here. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and have a good day. Discord link in the description below. Bye, guys.